everyone. This is Erin Donley. Today I'm joined by Tara Setmayer, who is a Republican strategist, a CNN commentator, and a former Capitol Hill communications director. I contacted Tara after watching her take on four men in a political debate on The Nightly Show with Larry Wilmore. The purpose of this interview is to put politics aside and allow women to get a behind-the-scenes view of what it's like to be a strong, intelligent, opinionated, female public voice. Tara, hi there. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Erin.
Yes, so appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. Now, earlier this week, my editor asked to have a discussion about your appearance on The Nightly Show, and she said, Tara's political views are different from mine, but I found myself getting so mad at the disrespect she was shown by the men on the panel. So let's start there. I mean, were you rattled at all by that interaction on the show?
No, not at all. I've been doing this for a very long time. So when you're in the public sphere, particularly on television, debating something as emotional as politics, and people are very passionate about these things, you can't get rattled easily. So I always joke that I'm a tough Jersey girl. I'm tough as nails. So situations like that where you're outnumbered, I knew that my positions would not be popular, not only with the people on the panel, but with the audience as well. But I felt that the issue was important enough, having a female voice, not only just a female voice, but just a conservative voice to bring some balance to the discussion, was important enough to expose myself, put myself into the lion's den. So no, I wasn't rattled at all by being outnumbered or knowing that I was walking into hostile territory. I'm used to that. It goes along with the territory.
Yeah. Now, there's that keep it 100 question where they ask each of you to be 100% honest.
Right.
I viewed that as such a setup to make you look bad either way you answered it. The questions for the men didn't carry the same biting tone. So was that your politics they were going after, or was it the fact that you're a woman? Or neither?
I think I appreciate the fact that you recognized how underhanded and off base that question was compared to everyone else's. I was very unhappy about the nature of the question. I'm very lighthearted. I can play around like everybody else. You can't take yourself too seriously. But I felt the tone of that question went too far. I thought it was inappropriate, and it was not fair compared to everybody else's. And I very rarely ever will say something like that, but I just thought that you were correct. The tone of that question just was not on the same level as everybody else's, and it almost seemed like it was an intentional gotcha question. Now, it's comedy, and comedy walks a fine line, so they pushed the envelope a little bit. But I think in that instance it was more about the fact that I was a conservative versus me necessarily being a woman. But I don't know. I don't know where they were coming from with that, but my gut feeling that in this instance it was really more about the politics because it was a mostly progressive audience, progressive show, which is supposed to be so tolerant, right? That's the way progressives and liberals project themselves, is very tolerant. So I would think that they would be accepting of me as a woman and not be male chauvinists to try to bully me. But if that was their intent, they certainly didn't succeed.
Yes. Now, are you ever compelled to give that kind of feedback to them? Like, wow, I really didn't appreciate that question. Or do you just usually just let those things fall by the wayside?
No. If I feel as though something was not above board, I will definitely let them know. And I did, as a matter of fact.
Great. I love hearing that. Okay, now,
so when you speak up, though, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's something as women that we sometimes feel that we should be proper or polite, and that it's not, it's not becoming of a woman to speak up, stand up for themselves. And I say that that's absolutely not true. As women, we should feel 100% empowered to stand up for ourselves, speak up when we think things are not above board, or if we feel there's been an injustice or we've been wronged. Absolutely speak up for yourself. And that's partially the motivation for why I do what I do. Yes, I have a certain political perspectives, but my motivation really is to inspire people to speak up when they think when they think that there's an injustice. Do not be bullied into silence, because oftentimes one side or the other will try to bully you into silence but people need to know that the courage of their convictions should always weigh out and to speak up for yourself, particularly for women.
Tara, how do you manage your expectations in those moments where you are giving that tough feedback? Are you wanting an apology, or are you just wanting them to acknowledge that they've gone too far? What satisfies you?
Well, I think it depends on the circumstance, and it depends on what the grievance was. You have to manage your expectations contingent upon the circumstance. In this case, I just wanted them to be aware of the fact that I recognized that this was an unfair question. It was an unfair question, that I felt ambushed, and that moving forward they should perhaps reconsider when questions like that, or when circumstances like that arise. Maybe they should reconsider the kinds of questions they're asking. Whether they do or don't, that's their prerogative, but I felt my voice needed to be heard. If they apologized or not, well, in a situation like that, an apology, I don't know if it was necessarily something that would qualify as what I wanted. You know what I mean? I think it wasn't like they completely did something, I don't know. It depends on the situation. But they did apologize. The person that I did speak to at the show actually apologized profusely, because she says that was by no means their intent. So I think that it was a constructive conversation, and I think they'll think twice moving forward, I hope.
Yeah, I'm glad you said something. Now, do you have someone that you chat with after these appearances to kind of debrief and discuss what went well or what didn't? Like, do you have a coach or a mentor or someone that you really trust to give you critical feedback?
I do, and it's my mom.
Oh.
It's my mom. She is the most straightforward, honest person that will give me those opinions. She'll be straight with me, and she knows me the best out of anybody else. She's been there from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So it's actually, it is my mom. She's my most trusted confidant and best friend, and I call her my deputy.
Oh, that's so cool to hear.
Yeah,
my mom is actually one of my best editors, too. She's got the eagle eye. It's amazing.
Yes, my mom is the same way, and she was there, actually. She was on set in studio during that show, and so she's my eyes and ears also oftentimes when it comes to these things, and she wasn't very pleased either. And my mom, again, like I said, we're tough Jersey girls. I come from a very tough line of women. My grandmother was a tough cookie, too. Back in her day, you would write letters. You did not want to be on the receiving end of a Gloria Setmayer letter, let me tell you what. So, I come from a generation, generations of very strong women, and even my mom said, we looked at each other after the show was over, and we knew. We didn't even have to really say anything. So we did have some choice words. I certainly did in the car ride home about what had taken place. And then after I saw the show, after it had been edited, I was even more incensed about the way it turned out, because it was heavily edited, which a lot of people don't realize. And
no, we don't as a viewer.
Right. Which is why I prefer live television or live radio, where you cannot be edited, because if someone, people can edit things down in a way to make it look however they so choose. Just ask reality show stars. They edit it to a certain agenda oftentimes. So, and to me, I felt as though what they chose to edit out contributed to what they wanted from the show. Didn't necessarily to make me look good. It was to get what they wanted from the show, and I didn't appreciate that too much either.
Yeah. Now, I've heard you say that as an African American, as a female, and as a conservative, you've been on the receiving end of lots of, personal attacks. I mean, I think anyone in the political field, is gets a little more tolerant at receiving those. But are there any comments that still seem to really hurt your feelings?
No. I've heard it all. I mean, if anyone ever goes to my Twitter feed after an appearance on CNN where we talk about racial issues, or if I'm very critical of President Obama's policies, you will see some of the most horrible, vitriolic things said to me. And I learned to get over that very, very early on in my political world. Since, I've been doing this since I was 18 years old, when I went to college in Washington, D.C., so politics and public policy and speaking in front of people has been a passion for me for a long time. So you have to learn to let it roll off your back, because if you don't, and if you obsess over everything someone says to you, you can forget it. So it's no, there's really nothing A that I haven't heard already, and B, it kind of goes back to sticks and stones. People can say what they want to say. And with social media today, people can be cowards behind their keyboards in anonymity and say whatever they want to say to someone that they would never have the courage to say to their faces, usually because their own lives are miserable and they find some kind of masochistic joy in knocking other people down.
Yeah, it's their one sense of perceived control or something. Yeah.
Right. But that's again, that's just par for the course.
Nature of the territory.
Yeah, it saddens me though sometimes where I see how personally people go. I mean, they instead of argue with me on the merits, I'll go back and forth with you all day. But as soon as you start ad hominem attacks, the discussion is over because that's right. It's just over. It means you have nothing of intelligence to say, and that's their right to feel that way. But I don't have to listen to it.
Yeah, I've heard it said that anger is one of the easiest emotions to access, and that's so evident when we see social media dialogue. It's the easiest place for people to go.
It's true, and like I said, with social media now, you can sit in your pajamas in your living room on your phone or your laptop and just fire away. And some people feel empowered by that, and that says something about our society. But yeah, again, I will always stand on principle, and I think it's important that people understand, particularly women, that if you are strong in your convictions, to stand on principle, and you will be successful. You can't let the ambient noise of your critics deter you from what you believe in. You have to stand strong for it, and I think that's part of the American way right there. That's the tough American spirit of no one's going to shut me down, no one's going to silence me. And that's why our founding fathers put freedom of speech as right there in the Bill of Rights.
Yeah. Now, final question, Tara. I tend to get impatient with the heavy focus on passion and positivity when I go to women's conferences or when I'm in sort of female professional settings. It seems to be all focused on this mindset. And as a communication expert, it's no, the rubber meets the road when we have to speak or write to stand up for ourselves and progress our mission and advocate for ourselves. And, it's let's talk about the choice in our words. And so when you're in these sort of professional female settings, what level of proficiency do you see that women need with their communication, or even with this female inspiration on the whole? Where is it lacking?
I think there needs to be more of a focus on authenticity. Just be you. Who you are is good enough. Don't try to be someone else. Don't try to be what you think is supposed to be the standard. I think that who you are you need to be comfortable in your own skin. I think far too often in women, in professional settings, sometimes women are always trying to be a certain something else. And you don't have, no. Be who you are. I think that is the most important lesson, and be honest. Just be honest.